This conference will now be recorded.
To engage, to connect, to share useful information and bond. So we've been having a series of sessions. Morning, we started at 8 o'clock with a session by our president on yoga. Then we had an interesting session at 10 o'clock on rooftop solar. And now here we are on a session on water conservation. What can we all do? What are the simple tips and tricks that we have a bunch of experts internally, many of whom have guided, advised members to implement very interesting initiatives, and it's topically relevant today. Like Mr. Nagaraj said, today is World Water Day, and hence no better day than today to be able to talk about preserving this precious resource, and especially since we are hitting a season where we need to focus on this, and combined with the fact that we are now in a state of high amount of alert and preparedness. All of the people, residents, are staying home, so naturally the extent of consumption will be higher. It is even more important for us to focus on aligning conservation techniques so that we are able to optimally use this resource. So I wish you all a good session. I hand it over into the capable hands of Prasanna to anchor and moderate it from here. Prasanna, over to you.
Thanks very much, Vikram, and very important point. Reflection and preparedness is what I would be more keen on presenting at this point in time. The way we have a team here with me. Those who have practical experience, those who have a lot of concern, those who have implemented various measures for conserving water within our complex, including aerators, water meters, rainwater harvesting, big subject, rainwater harvesting, and generally they have knowledge about various products as well. So what we have planned is initially, since we have a lot of information on our website, and a lot has been also exchanged on WhatsApp. Yes, there is a need now to add so much of information on our website, which we are at it. And then we will have a lot more. But however, what I'm trying to say was a lot of information about types of water meters, of aerators, of rainwater harvesting, the dates and the space constraint. Everything has been discussed quite a bit on our WhatsApp group. So so there are these are some of the other missing components that we thought we should be talking about more as a general knowledge. So with that, let me start off with what I think we have. I have several slides. Let me show. These are all the things that anyone can gather this information either from online material. And also the material that I've got is from personal interaction with people who are experts in the line. A lot more is there, but I will restrict it to only a few figures that are more important as a society to understand. So coming to the water now. So this is again, like I said, it's general. Pardon me, it sounds rhetoric, but I'm sure many of you know about it, but then many of us may not have put our fingers exactly on figures. So here we go, generally, there it is, our country. I'm sorry if there are any spelling mistakes. I had to include a few slides within the last less than 18 hours. So with bits and pieces that I had everywhere. So our country, for instance, the land, the water, the situation as it says here, we are at 2.4% of the land mass on this earth. However, we are exploiting 25% of world's groundwater. Groundwater, as you all know, is bore wells, especially. Even those good old-fashioned wells are not so destructive, but it's the bore wells. We'll see. Then we are, Also 18% of world's population, but having only 4% of world's fresh water. Unlike Canada, which has 2/3, I've read, of fresh water in forms in use of ice and so many things. But we have only 4% of world's fresh water in our country. That's something that we need to understand. Now, what's happening is we have in the country 4,500 large and small dams, and well, dams themselves are a question being asked by the experts around the world. They're thinking, hey, is that a sensible thing to have dams? The reasons being many, one of them being siltation, silt formation, enormous amount of silt formation, and thus reducing the capacity to hold water. So now, with the number of dams that we have in our country, 10% is utilized. This is called surface water, and then only 8% is used for domestic consumption and 82% by agriculture sector. It's a big number. So however much we may talk about, domestic consumption, but look at the bulk. It's agriculture sector. Why? We'll know. Now, are we using this water efficiently? I'm talking about the agricultural sector. Our surface water efficiency is a near 40%. That means 70% of the water that the agricultural sector draws is wastable. All kinds of wastages. We'll not go into the details, but we can take it another time. And the groundwater efficiency, that's efficiency as far as your bore wells are concerned. We are pulling out water from bore wells, and in some cases I've seen them pulling it out from water bodies as well. And it's only a mere 55%. The remaining 45% is still a waste. It's just evaporates. It will go to a transport or evaporation. It's lost. And Israel, for instance, their efficiency is 90%. There is something called that the scientists call it as water usage efficiency, and we are far below. How does it concern us? I mean, we are talking. Okay, so we come to that. So this is the situation, the ground reality today in our country. Now, some wild suggestions. Agricultural sector, they grow what we demand. And from the past few generations only, our eating habits have drastically changed. We are no more the ones that consume rain-dependent crops anymore. We are dependent on water-intensive crops, for which only our dam water and surface water can provide. So that's where our food habits have changed. Our population has exploded, so the demand for water is even a lot more. It's an effect of both changing our eating habits from past few generations to increasing population. So rain, thirsty crops like we are consuming more of rice, wheat, and sugar. Now, okay. Now, I'll not go a lot into details, but our original we used to eat our forefathers perhaps many generations back would eat more of maize, finger millet, pearl millet, sorghum, etc., which are grown on dry surfaces. That is seasonal. They would grow with rainwater. They didn't need the support of canals and pump sets, bore wells. They grew what was within availability, within the structure, natural structure of rain. So we grew these crops, we ate these crops, and these crops are a lot more healthier. That's been discussed a lot as well by the scientists. Now, benefits of eating this. Okay, that's what I was trying to say. We will reduce demand of irrigation by a large extent. and we get more of nutrients, minerals, and just a few examples like plucked out. That's iron and zinc. We get a lot more by these maize, millets, and sorghum, and a lot more of it. Actually, rain-fed crops, not surface dam water-fed crops. So we have missed out on that in last few generations again, and that's another concern, cause for concern. Now let's see where we are today. In Bangalore, Bangalore used to be just 200 and odd square kilometers up till recently when they decided, we'll include a lot. When we bought an apartment, we were still part of that smaller area as that was called as urban. And then it exploded. They included other villages and what the CMC, City Municipality Corporation, that's what they used to call them. They included that. Bang, Kottayam, this and that, and all around they all were included as Bangalore, and it's 720 square kilometers, and out of which there are 30 lakh plus households, and the connection for UGD, underground drainage, that's all our sewage water where it's getting connected, so also the water from our showers and other things are getting mixed up there. There are only 8 lakh households. So where does the remaining sewage go? So this is something that we need to be aware of. Now, this goes into logical ways, of course. This goes into our stormwater drain that remaining unconnected households. They're meant to have septic tanks. They're meant to have their own treatment plants, and so on and so forth, but a very small minimal amount is treated or goes into septic tank, but the rest goes into our stormwater drain, which finds its way into a tertiary or a secondary or a primary canal, even places like if you go to Shivaji Nagar and JC Road, you can see the big radical way flowing there. It's a big Charangi, it's a big ditch, and a lot of water from all the surrounding slums are going directly into it. That's a primary radical way. And we have 850 kilometers of radical ways, but where are they? Where are they? So and then why? Because there's a rule that says that NGT says that 75 meters from the primary railway, 50 meters from the on either side, and 50 meters from secondary, and 25 meters from the tertiary hallway should be treated as buffer zone, and nothing should come up with. But where are these buffer zones? First of all, okay. So let's come to our own self. We are getting, we all know, but I just got the slides here. So we are getting water from Kaveri water, borewell, tankers, rainwater, the use of STP, the use of grey water. Grey water here, in my thing, is I'm talking about a lot of water from our laundry, a lot of water from our shower, our dishwasher. Grey water with a lot of detergents, a big challenge to treat them. So that's it. Go to the next slide. Now, Kaveri water. It's inadequate. Only 40% are covered. Today, I got a message saying that between water connection and UGB, there are some 9 lakh households are connected, 9 lakh plus. But I have mentioned the figure of 8 lakh for UGB. So we are very close to what the BWSSP are trying. So we covered inadequate water from Kaveri, which is not anymore fit for drinking. Though a lot of us still drink Kaveri water, but it's really not great. Many of us have seen what's happening with Kaveri water. If somebody has seen the source of the Kaveri and where it flows through the various little villages, and you will be shocked. Entire trees, cities, townships, you will be shocked where none of them have STPs. So and then add on your the growing of the crops, the amount of pesticide, fungicide, fertilizers that are put into that are used for growing the crops, and come a big rain, they all flow back into small canals, and we try to bring them all back into the river. So if you look at Kaveri River at Srirangapatna, and if you go down 25 kilometers at Begu, Nasipura, you'll see that drastic change in the color of the water from light green to dark green. If you go up towards Kushal Nagara, you see the Kaveri different color. So it's all not only the sewage water that's taken into the river, it's as well it's also the pesticides, fungicides, all these chemical fertilizers that are going into our river. So the Kaveri water, that's the state, sad state. Frequently drought. This is happening very frequently. So last 2 years we had abundant rains, thanks to the scientists think it's all due to CO2 emissions and greenhouse effect. So we used to the drought situation used to be 3 times in 10 years, but now it's 3 times more. So there's more of so there's less of Kaveri water available as the time goes. Who knows what happens next few years? Whether there will be a copious amount of rainfall in the Kaveri basin or not is a big question. Now our dams also add to that the reducing the capacity to hold water in our dams. All the dams are so many, the major tributaries of Kaveri. They have so many dams and they're all city. For instance, commissioned in 77, no, but it can be done is the different question. But there are places where infants get bogged down and they have to be rescued. 12 feet of silt, and that's about a good 20 kilometers away from the dam. That's the kind of the silt. So imagine as you go towards the dam. So the capacity has reduced drastically. We may have dams, but we may not have enough water in them. So that's the sort of the waste we carry. Let's go. Contamination levels increasing. It is saying that okay, today it's 720 square kilometers and only 40% are connected. And what if you say that the demand, the people will demand, we want more connections, others who don't have connections are demanding. So we are already, we are very thinly spread, and it will be even thinner as the time goes. Yeah, groundwater is depleting at an alarming rate. I have a slide somewhere here. If you look at groundwater in the year 2001, the water level on an average, we had to go down 15.29 meter only, and today we have gone down 300 meters, more than that. I have come across 1,500 feet and yet no water. They used to have water, it lasts for a short while, and they're lavish with their water usage, and then that borehole is dry. So what they do, they go and dig one more borehole. But not think about using it efficiently. That's a sad state of affairs. So going back here, so 60% of the households are dependent on rainwater. So the alarm bells there, and we are pulling out about 4 times more rainwater than what gets into the ground. So and then contamination also. And the contamination could be, like I said, due to simple thing. We don't have enough STPs. We are not treating. Even those 27 STPs that PWSSP has, its operating efficiency is only 50%. It's quite bad. So we are purchasing a lot of water from tankers. And where do they get it from? They're getting it from borewells. Of course, there's no other choice for them other than to get it from borewells. We rejuvenated the lake here in Jetinagar, and after it was rejuvenated, 3 deep borewells sprang up, and 24 hours they were pulling water from those borewells. And now I'm sure they would have either completely stopped because sewage is getting into the lake. So where does it go? It will find an aquifer. Finally, it will have to come out from there are scientific studies conducted to show that out of 4 lakh borewells, I'll come to that. So this is our thing. So we are using tanker water. Tankers are very, very, you know, they take a lot of, cause a lot of traffic woes, as well as adding to the carbon footprint. Bangalore gets a decent amount of rainfall. If you, that's 830 to 90 millimeters of rainfall. If you go further south from Banerghatta, suddenly at the Pali region, you are in your region, it hardly gets 350 to 400 millimeters of rain. And if you go beyond our Baat, north, again, it gets our Arkavati, for instance, where it gets only northeast monsoon. It doesn't get the southwest monsoon. So yeah. So even out of this rainfall, the Bangalore is getting 25% is lost to surface runoff and 71% lost to river for transpiration. That is, this includes transpiration from the trees and ponds as well. So barely 4% is getting into our ground, and we are pulling out 1 heck of a lot of water. So let's be aware of this. STP, I've got some figures here. We'll not go into a lot of details, but just to show that STPs are not sufficient. We don't have sufficient STPs for DWSS. We don't have enough STPs to treat the water from the UTs. So you probably have all seen this. How did we arrive? How did 135 meter average requirement come from? So that's how they got into this. Bathing, washing clothes, toilet flushing, eating, washing. So that's 135 plus 135 meters per day per person. Okay, some more figures. Flushing car water flagging is 50%. So we can use STP water for this. Maybe car washing, when we have a question, but we still maybe if it's well treated, we may be able to use it. But we may be able to use STP. Maybe be able to. Sorry if you can't hear me. I was probably not loud enough. STP water. Now, important to have STP. Not going to the details. It's very important to have it. And economies, I'm told that anything, 200 apartments will have to have 100 KLD capacity STP, and that's good enough break-even point. So, so STP is good. It will protect our environment because we can reuse that water. You all know that. In addition to aerators and water meters, we'll talk about optimizing the rainwater and then optimize the STP, install STP. We are not going to talk about these two, but we have our expert Luke here with us, and then we have Upendra Singh. They will give a bit of a talk on rainwater harvesting. And many questions of yours too will be answered by Luke and Upendra. Okay, so with this brief introduction, I hope I have not taken a lot of time. So we have on our panel here, we have Avinash Hegde, who has a lot of information and knowledge about water meters. So he's gonna give us some information on water meters. Then we have Upendra Singh, followed by Mr. Upendra Singh, who will tell us briefly in general about water harvesting. And we have Luke, who has specific knowledge about rainwater harvesting implementation, the importance. Then we have Kuntal Shah with us, and she has addressed a lot of challenges for aerators and aerators and various problems that apartment complexes had to face regarding aerators and how this was addressed. So Kuntal Shah will be talking about it, and Mr. Jambunathan is here, and he will be there give us a hand with any other questions and any other thoughts, and then it's all of during between these sessions we will open it up for questions. And like I said, many of the questions would have been answered on our website, and many would have been answered on our WhatsApp groups, and there will be many more that will be answered by people who are here in the panel. So you can ask specific questions anytime. Get in touch with Mr. Avinash, send him an email followed by a phone call to ask about water meters, whatever kinds of water meters you want to know the questions.
Prasanna, I think we have 35 minutes is over. Can we start with the individual person's opinion?
Yeah,
session?
Mr. Nagaraj Rao, I got it. So we are prepared for that.
35 minutes is
So,
over, that's why.
With that,
Yeah.
let me welcome Mr. Avinash Hegde to give us a brief introduction and talk about water meters. And then when he hands me back, I will invite Mr. Upendra Singh to talk on rainwater harvesting, followed by Mr. Luke. So Avinash, please.
Yeah. Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody. So I'll just be very brief, and if anybody's got any questions, I'd rather answer that. Okay. So the basic premise of water metering is, we try to lecture everybody to reduce consumption in different ways, but nothing works in a practical world. So finally, the only thing which really works is when it hits your pocket. So a lot of people ask what is the return on investment, which of course, unlike solar, it's very difficult to say that there is an ROI. But my standard take on that is that you cannot manufacture water. Okay, so if you come to a situation where you have to purchase water, and that becomes an ever increasing resource, so you have to balance it out with, rationalizing your consumption. Nobody is asking you to reduce your actual usage. What we are asking is to remove the wastage so that we have enough water for our actual usage. Okay, so now let me just come down the way to water meters. Okay, I've had a lot of experience because I worked on ships for 38 years. So I worked a lot with meters of all forms, because we have a lot of different kind of meters. But where domestic water meters are concerned, the most common one is mechanical water meters. I think most of you know. But just to hide it under some different name, because a mechanical water meter doesn't sound right. So a lot of companies use different terminologies. Some of them say that it is displacement, etc. But where domestic water meters are concerned, there are basically only two types of water meters. There is a third one, electromagnetic, but that's very expensive, not feasible. Okay, so we have either mechanical water meters, also called positive displacement, and then there are the highly accurate ones called ultrasonic. Now, what do you have to look at before you think of installing water meter? One is you have got to work out the feasibility of doing repiping, because as you all are aware, many of the apartments have multiple inlets into each apartment. Like for example, we had 6 inlets for a 3 BHK in ours. So it was not practically possible, and also the location was such that it is very, very difficult to approach those places. And then later on, even after installing, you have to think of maintenance. So given all that, we still went in for repiping. So when you say repiping, you can't just replace the pipe what was originally done. So what you need to basically do is to rationalize the number of inlets. So for example, if you have only water, one overhead tank which supplies all the water, so you combine all of them into one. But you must remember one thing: water meters finally are only in a maximum size of 1 inch. That is not a very common size. The most common size is 3/4 inch. So no matter, even if you put a 2-inch line, you will finally get reduce to 3/4 inch where the water meter is. After that, you can expand the line. But one thing you must remember, pressure doesn't depend on volume of water. It only depends on the head of water. So whether you have a 1/2 inch line or a 3/4 inch line or a 1 inch line, what is more important is the head of water. That means the height of water. That is why you find the pressure is much lesser in the upper floors. So this is one thing you have to consider. The head of water, the number of inlets to each apartment, and of course, whether you want to go and what type of water meter you want to go in. I will not take the name of the company, but I think most of us are aware. The most popular company in Bangalore is basically selling you mechanical water meters. Okay, what's the, okay. When I say mechanical water meters, I mean the main mechanism is mechanical and the data is transmitted wirelessly. Okay, but the mechanism of the water meter is not different. These are also called positive displacement. Now, with mechanical water meters, what you do basically have is a gear, a piston, or a vane system to drive the meters. These are not very accurate. Secondly, they have another problem. You need a filter, and that filter perhaps will have to be cleaned at least once in 2 to 3 days. It's just a matter of time before the mechanical system gives you some sort of trouble. The other issue with mechanical water meters is you must remember they can turn with air. So if you don't have any water in the pipe or a half-filled pipe, they can still be spinning and give you a wrong reading. Okay. The other part of the water meter, ultrasonic water meters. These are very good, very accurate, and they are called full flow water meters. What do we mean by full flow? In short, suppose you have a 1 inch pipe, it will be clear right through. So there is no reduction in the cross-sectional area of the pipe. So you get full flow. There is no resistance to the flow. They don't react to air. Very, very accurate, and they are classed as class A, B, or C. In the case of mechanical water meters, even if they say it's a 1 inch pipe, 25% of that area is taken up by the mechanism. Mechanical water meters are also affected by what is hard water and which is predominantly what we get supplied with. Okay, the only downside, of course, of ultrasonic water meters is that they're expensive. When I say expensive, actually they are supposed to be in the region of 8,000 to 9,000 rupees a meter. So that makes it beyond the reach of most apartments. Now, besides this, as most of you know, there is also this thing. What is that? The regular maintenance part. So most of the companies charge you in the region of 45 rupees a month per meter. So you have, there are different schemes offered by different companies. But as of now, what I know is, if I'm allowed to take names, there's only Smarter Homes, which is active. There is only Smarter Homes, which is active in Bangalore. There is, of course, VGOT, but apparently VGOT has got some issues with some of the installations, etc. Anyway, I will not take too many names. But what we have done is we have gone in for a company. I will not take the name because I don't want to publicize them. We have fitted, we just completed fitting ultrasonic water meters. We got it at a very, very, very reasonable price of 3,500 rupees all inclusive. And these are highly accurate, made in India. The only ones which are made in India, all others are imported from China. So there are issues when maintenance comes into the picture. Okay, since there are so many other people to follow me, I would rather answer anybody's questions rather than, you know, go on rambling about meters.
Sure. Should we, given the time constraint, should we give it to Upender and give his presentation followed by quickly, and then people can come back with questions for water meters and questions. Shall we keep the questions to the end?
Yeah, fine, no problem at all. No problem at all. You can move on to the next. Yeah, no
Thanks.
problem.
Thanks so much, Avinash. That was very informative. Mr. Upendra Singh, are you there?
Yeah, Prasanna, I'm here. Are you able to hear me?
Right. Your voice is little low, so if you can, do something, and please go ahead and we would like to hear your bit as well, Mr. Upendra Singh.
Yeah, thank you, Prasanna. I think
Yeah.
most of the context Mr. Prasanna has already covered. So I'll just brief you in short words what rainwater harvesting is and why do we need it. And then Mr. Luke can get into the technicality of how to install it and other questions.
Little
We all
louder,
know.
Upendra.
Is it
Little
okay?
louder.
Huh? Is it okay, Uncle? Is it okay now?
Better, much better. Carry on, please.
Yeah. So as Mr. Prasanna was saying that we have the stats that Karnataka is meeting 2/3 of its water demand using groundwater. And even in the Bangalore city, most of us are pretty much dependent on the groundwater. We would remember the recent tanker strike which happened because Kaveri water is not pumped in every part of the city. Even 2 or 3 days of strike created quite a chaos. So that will set a context on how important rainwater harvesting is going to be. And we all know from where these rain tankers bring the water. They all pump it out of the ground using the borewells. And the aquifers which they are using takes decades, if not century, to replenish. Now we are having good rains over the years, but still our ground water table is very low. The reason being is so much concrete structures are propping up, so rainwater is not really getting good entry into the ground. And that's where the concept of rainwater harvesting comes. So what it actually means is it's very simple. We have to direct the rainwater into the ground properly. Now we have concrete structures. We have to artificially catch that rainwater, make proper filtration and pump it back. That is the very simple rainwater harvesting definition is. Now, rainwater harvesting itself consists of two parts. One is the basic ground recharge, and another one is the rainwater harvesting as we understand it. So, what they two mean is, so when the rain is falling, as it happens, we capture that rainwater, we filter it, put it into our storage tanks, and reuse it right there. That's what we understand with general harvesting, that we are using the rainwater as it happens. Any excess rainwater we do catch, we again filter it and pump it into the aquifers, into the ground using the proper recharge well. That is called the ground recharge. So whenever we talk about it, rainwater harvesting, it covers both aspects. Now, why do we need it and why we are talking about it? Number one, we need it because that's our obligation to the environment. If we are taking something from the nature, we have to give it back. Now, because of our own urbanization, recharge is not happening, and that's where we have to do it artificially. Secondly, it's a government regulation also. You might be hearing that the authorities are coming to check the rainwater harvesting wells. So this is very important. We have to do it. Now, how to do it and what needs to be done, that part I will give it to Luke. So I just explained the context in very brief. So Prasanna, you can get to Luke now for the rest of the presentation.
Thanks, Upendra. So thanks for that. And then given the time, I would quickly request Mr. Luke Dhanraj to come and to let the other members know. Mr. Luke Dhanraj has taken a lot of interest in rainwater harvesting, as well as various other things related to water. But I had to make a request. In fact, had to plead and say that no, we will stick to rainwater harvesting alone. So, but here is a person for any of you in the future to know anything more about water. There is Mr. Luke Dhanraj. Luke, are you there? Hello, Luke. Hello, Luke. Are you there?
Indeed.
Right.
I have been
Luke, not able to hear you.
We could briefly.
We can actually start Q&A. Some
You hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. That's correct. Good. So go ahead, Prasanna. I was listening to you.
Right. No, great. You are back on the thing. Luke, please go ahead. And you have heard what Mr. Upendra Singh had to say. And you are an expert. So please do tell us what you think and what you want us to tell. Please go ahead, Luke.
Well, I would only like to impress upon all of you that rainwater, every drop of rainwater is a gift from God. And that gift should not be wasted. Not a drop to be let off unutilized. That is the fundamental principle I would like to share with you all. Now, Upender rightly described rainwater harvesting to two aspects. One is to collect clean roof water, rainwater from the terrace, filter it again, and then use it for your domestic needs. It's potable water. The water that falls on the ground around your complex, what is called in the normal parlance runoff. Runoff cannot be directly used. It needs to be cleaned and refined. Now that process is very expensive for us to carry out. However, Mother Earth is just waiting to do it. Mother Earth can do it absolutely free of cost. All we need to do is just charge it into the ground, and you would soon be able to get it back, draw it from even open wells if you regularly recharge ground. Now the logic is very simple. Even today in Bangalore, there are many locations where open wells are indeed present. Unfortunately, we have gone in for whole-scale exploitation of groundwater. Now groundwater there is a finite quantum of groundwater. It's not infinite quantum. And if we keep exploiting it, by the day we need to go down. We need our borewells to go deeper and deeper. And today we are probably in many places, at least around Belandur village and the other villages around here. I find that water goes, the borewells go right down to 1,500 to 1,800 feet. And this is the most horrible thing. Water that is present at these depths are really coming from crevices and cracks and fractures and fissures in deep bedrock. They are not from soft soil, they are from bedrock. And these waters have gone there many thousand years ago, and they are not young waters, they are old waters. They have had adequate time to dissolve all kinds of salts in earth, and mostly also toxic salts. I have tested many of these waters. I find that they are toxic. They are not really good for human consumption. When I say toxic, I must explain this. These are not toxins that kill man overnight. They are toxins that kill man over hundreds of, maybe tens of years, and sometimes generations. We are really poisoning ourselves for generations. Some of them cause cancer to humans. So it's best avoided. The best avoided source of water for us is deep borewells. That is extra deep borewells. Up to 800 feet, it's probably okay, but then we are still exploiting groundwater. Therefore, the best choice available to us is harvest rainwater and use every drop of it. And rightly, as Prasanna said right in the beginning, there is also the option of STP treated water, which can be reused for many purposes, including toilet flush and gardening and car wash, etc., etc. If we can do that, And like Avinash said, if we can measure our consumption, believe me, friends, metering our consumption can reduce metering, and properly slab-wise charging consumers for such water can reduce our consumption by 50%. And out of that 50%, probably 25 to 30% will be used, can be used from STP treated water. Our need for fresh water will be much less, and that can be exclusively met with by rainwater harvesting. I think given the short time window that was given to me, I would like to say that's about all I want to say right now about the importance of rainwater harvesting, metering, and reuse of STP water. If there are questions, I'll be very happy to respond to you.
Thanks. That was absolutely brilliant, Luke. And quickly, before taking the question, if Kuntal Shah, are you there, Kuntal?
Yes, Prasanna, I am there, but we have very few minutes. Would we like to take questions first?
No, if you have, the challenges, the aerators is still continuing to be a challenge. If you can say within a few minutes the challenges faced and how you addressed it, that will be great.
Sure. So I'll keep it very quick. Aerator is not very technical subject, so it's easy. Aerator saves significant, so the saving with aerator is significant. We all know that. And it's not even an expensive it's not expensive to prove its ROI, but still there has been, I have heard from many apartments challenges convincing their management committee or resident to use aerator. So I just want to share some of the questions I have heard and some of the challenges we faced and how we resolve it, right? So in terms of cost, aerator is saving significant water in, at least in our apartment. It has reduced the consumption of water by not more than, like, not less than 10%, right? And if we see the cost of water versus cost of aerator, it's definitely worth. We have installed aerator to start with only in the kitchen utility sink and a kitchen sink, the two area where the unthoughtful water consumption is high, right? And that has helped us save 10%. And so that helped us prove the ROI and that fly through. The other resistance we faced during the aerator installment was a resistance from maid to use it, right? And the way it helped us by educating them, letting them know that we can, if we save water here, and the men who are staying in nearby community, there will be more water saved and you will get water easily. I think the idea of bringing their view in the education helped us, help them being more acceptable to the thought, or taking that, accepting that change. Okay, that's one definitely very easy solution or easy pointer to be added to when you are convincing your maid. Other thing is, what we did is initially all the apartment we gave aerator from the association side, and we have said that going forward resident need to buy, and if there is any damage they need to buy from their own, they have to bear the cost. And what we have proposed that every 6 months we will do audit, the plumber will go around and check that residents are still using those aerator. So these are the few very simple steps being taken to ensure aerator is used, and we are reaping benefits of it. Thanks, Prasanna.
Thanks, Kuntal. And quickly, Avinash, you mentioned 2 or 3 types of aerators. Would you like to mention that quickly, please? Hello, Avinash, you there? Okay. I'm not able to hear Avinash. And then we have 4 more minutes. Any quick questions from the members?
Prasanna, I am here. Sorry.
Bhaskar,
Okay.
and I have a couple of questions, if I'm allowed.
Yeah.
Hello, this is
Yeah.
Bhaskar from VPHC, and I have a couple of questions. Actually, for my first question was to Mr. Avinash.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing the information about the ultrasound meters. That is one of the useful information to me. I'm from BBHC, where we have around 208 flats, and we have 3 inlets to individual flat. So we were thinking how to go ahead with these 3 inlets on the metering aspect. So now my question is, with this ultrasound meter, if we have 2 blocks, and each block is divided A1, A1, A2, A3, A4, like that. So I stay in B1, where 24 flats are shared by one tank. So is it worth to have a meter for one tank? And if there is any extra cost, that money should be shared for all 24 flats, because putting or having individual meter is a practically difficult in our. So do you
Okay,
think it's right?
yeah, I understood your question. So I'll tell you very clearly. Okay,
Yep.
whether it is 1 block, 2 blocks, it's like a separate building. The moment you're metering one whole building, it is nobody's feeling the pinch personally. Okay, so he's
Yeah.
everybody, the person who's consuming high amount of water. Like for
Yep.
example, I'll just give you one example. In my building, we have 26 apartments. Okay, there's one person consuming 42,000 liters. Okay, now
That's huge.
yeah, that is like it's a criminal thing. But
Yeah.
why did I find out? Only because I put individual meters. Now, if you take the logic of, if I put one common meter, okay, just like you have 2 blocks, 3 blocks, it doesn't matter. So I think there are people who have tried it out. Okay,
Okay.
so this doesn't work unless you feel the pinch personally. Because what the logic is, every person thinks, okay, I am going to consume there are 24 other people to share my expense. That's it.
Mm.
It doesn't work.
So you advise us to go for a replumbing, to have a one inlet to individual flat, then go for a metering, correct?
Yeah, that's right. Okay, how old is your building?
It's around 5 years old.
Okay, what kind of material, what kind of pipes? I presume it is CPVC or PVC, whatever.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
UP. Yeah,
It's a
fine.
PVC, and things
Okay,
are good.
if you have three inlets, you don't want to go in for repiping, just put individual meters. But you don't think of putting a common meter on one tank for each block.
Okay. So that is a big task of making people understand who are here in our apartment.
That is a challenge. If you want, I can come and help you out. There's no problem. I have visited many apartments giving my presentation at different people's AGM. So I can come and
Okay.
give it to you as an independent person. I've done it for solar, I've done it for water, I've done it for a lot of things. So there's not a problem.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your worthful information. And I
No
have a
problem.
second question. Yep. I have, rather than a question, I think I have already shared it in a BAF water WhatsApp group. Yeah, yesterday itself we have completed a rainwater harvesting, creating 6 recharge wells for our B block, and it turned out to be a very good experiment and experience for us. I just thought I'll share this with information. Thank you.
Why don't that, Avinash, since you're answering questions, let me quickly read out a few questions which have come out in the chat window over here so that we can finish that in one group. Yeah. One question Shankar is asking, is there a template for diligence in choosing water meters? I mean, any sort of a cookie cutter way to look at saying that these are all the factors in choosing the water meters itself, if I understand it correctly.
See, from my experience, I waited for this company. I'll not specify, otherwise people think I'm trying to promote this company. I waited for this company for 9 months. Okay, they kept delaying their project, but for me, technically, there is no debate. I will never, ever go in for a mechanical water meter. Simple. It doesn't make any sense, and you're asking for a lot of trouble 2 years down the line. And this maintenance side, the continuous maintenance side, is very difficult. So for me, It was only a matter of finding a reasonably priced ultrasonic water meter. Once I found that, there was no two doubts about it. We are the pilot project. Our apartment is the first in Bangalore to do this.
Excellent. So ultrasonic is a future to go. Second question somebody is asked, is there any standard slabs for Amit? This is a question from Amit. Is there any standard slabs for water metering, that is consumption? Have you been able to figure out the pricing mechanism, or how is the process flow once you have implemented water meters, right? In terms of billing.
See, that I think that is each individual apartment thing. There's no standard, but I think if you average out tanker rate of approximately 10 paisa per liter, you can add that. For the first slab, I have taken a slab of 0 to 7,500, 7,500 to 9,000. I increased it by 2 paise, then 3 paisa, then every 2,000 liters, I added 3 paisa to the slab, and above 15 or 20,000 liters, I said it is 30 paise. I know it sounds steep, but I think people who are willing to waste that kind of resource, they better pay for it. And it's only when they pay for it. And also you have to please remember, the average pumping cost is approximately 4 paisa per liter. So this is inclusive of that.
Great. There's one more question in the chat window by Pradeep. This might be, I think, better answered by Luke. What is the best way to assess our rainwater harvesting effort is adequate? Is there any, framework, to determine what is the impact of the rainwater harvesting effort? Luke, this is a question from Pradeep.
Luke, you there? Hello, Luke.
Luke left.
I think he must have turned off his mic.
Right, I think I do. Right. Probably.
Can I take that?
Anyone of you wants to pick up? Prasanna, do you want to give some perspective on the?
Right. Look, there is a calculator.
Whether the rainwater harvesting is working well.
Right. Okay. While the expert is away, let me mention this. Rainwater harvesting, BWSSB also has other wing supported by Karnataka State Council for Science and Technology, and they have a calculator where you mention the rooftop surface and tell them what's the and which area, blah blah blah. It calculates and tells you how much water, if that's the kind of a question you're asking, how much water, what's the size of the pipe that's required, and what size tank holding capacity is required. So it calculates, but you can always calculate it. It's not a very difficult thing in given the amount of rain in Bangalore. So there's several calculators available online. You can use that. So the standard, if I understand the thing correctly, it's what is there a standard for doing the rainwater harvesting? Well, I had a chat with the Bangalore BWSSB and the KSCST folks, and they're saying store as much as you can. If you get the roof water, store as much as you can, as long as it's you think it's very clean, reasonably clean, store that water. So even if you have to find places to put huge tanks, put it. So whatever is excess and the runoff from the surface, you recharge the ground. They don't talk about recharging the bore wells, but however, that's the need of the hour, which we think we should do. But otherwise, the simple guidelines is maximum. Luke just said that every drop to be accounted for, to be saved, to be used for recharge or harvested. That's where we are. So try to get the roof water. Yeah, there are challenges such as pigeons and so on and so forth. That has to be handled very differently. But if it's a good clean water, use it. If it is usable for washing car and watering the garden, so be it. If the runoff surface water, use it for recharging. And if you can recharge the bore well, nothing like it. 3 feet or 4 feet diameter, go 10 feet or 15 feet deep. Use 1/3 of it to fill up your filter material by like big jelly, big rocks, smaller rocks. You put your things, your nylon mesh. Then you add your sand. Be careful, not the dust, just the gravel, sand, and then filter it and take it to your as close as you can to the borewell. So this is what has been recommended.
Yeah, I have one question for Kuntal. Can she touch upon, the types of aerators and which aerator to fit in which location?
Avinash, I thought you have some information on that as well.
No, since she was talking about aerators and she's got direct experience, she can always, it really doesn't matter.
Right. But can I request you technically to, in the meantime, Kuntal is welcome. But since you had specifically, you mentioned this morning, would you be able to answer that as well, Avinash?
Okay, as far as I know, in the toilets you can put in the mist type, and in the kitchen you use a rain type. But what I was a little surprised is if there are ones even for shower heads. Of course, for the tap in the bathroom you don't use anything because invariably that is used for filling buckets, and you can't afford to have an aerator in the filling buckets. So these are the 3 types that I know of, and I'm surprised that there's only a 10% reduction. I would have expected at least something like 30.
Correct. So just to, because we have used aerator only for, as I said, as we go stepwise, we used aerator only for kitchen, sink, and utility, and not all the other outlets, as you just mentioned, like toilet, because there we are using STP water. We need not to, for flush, we need not to use that. And for bathing again, we encourage people to use bucket. We are not using there. Right. So that's where I said minimum 10% saving.
So for the kitchen, what type are you using?
We are using the rain one, or what you call the shower one, not the mist one.
Okay. And for the wash basins, you're using mist?
Same. We are using both same. No, we are not using mist one. Mist has a resistance from, so resistance for mist is higher.
Okay, fine.
Yeah. Mr. Jambunathan has sent a comment saying that I think one size fits all. Every apartment will have different kinds of plumbing, and hence to look at a solution which fits in. I think that's a fair point, because a lot of differentiation in plumbing exists. But I think today the range of aerator products are reasonably available to fit most of them. So one more comment or a question from Mr. Muralidhar Rao to Prasanna. He's asking you, when are you taking people on the picnic to the rainwater harvesting park?
Right. I've been constantly, it's been on mine, and I spoke to Dr. Vijay at Karnataka State Council just as recent as yesterday, and reminding him that he had not gotten back on my requests, email requests, phone requests. He said, please wait for COVID to, this is a COVID time. So that's on our mind, and ASAP, as soon as it's out, we will make a visit. Mr. Rao.
Any more questions? Anybody?
Right.
Vikram.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Muralidhar Rao here. I would like to add one comment which I had been making at earlier these things also. Now, invariably the resistance to these aerators, comes from the maids, because the water, the flow becomes slow. Now, it invariably is because of the clogging of the aerators caused by clogging. So what I always keep is readily, handily is a spanner, adjustable spanner, which even my mother-in-law uses once a week. Opens up the sink, clears the clogging, and then puts it back, and it is working very well once again. So I would recommend everybody to keep a adjustable spanner readily. So if there is any slowing down further than that is required, just open it up, clean it up and put it back. It's a very simple thing. Thank you.
Clean it with what? Vinegar or something, or just water?
Pardon?
Clean it with vinegar or something? Anything specific to clean it? Or
No, no,
soak
no.
it in?
Just take a toothbrush and clean it. I mean, the insides of it. That's it. Yeah, old toothbrush and clean it. That's it. And put it back, and
Not
it works fine.
not even required that way. You can just reverse it and flush it backwards out.
Correct. Reverse flush it and then put it back. Correct. Exactly. And then, if necessary, old toothbrush, clean it again. Thank you.
One last
I
point
think
I'd like to make. I'm Srinath from Brigade
Yes, sir.
Classic Apartments. One thing that I noticed, is that the people who clean the tank normally tend to not block the outlets from the tank, and the resulting situation is exactly clogging up all the taps. So when I intervened and told them that they need to block the outlets and then clean the tank, it actually improved a lot more, and we had very less cases of clogging of the taps actually. So if we can address that at the root itself, it may be a lot better than trying to have everybody clean their taps on a regular basis.
Very important
That's
point.
that's a good idea, but I'm a little surprised because tanks mostly have a lower connection. Actually, if you take it, this thing, I mean, water outlet is not at the lowest level. It's a little bit higher, about 6 inches higher. And then you have a drain connection, which is really speaking a cleaning connection. And you're supposed to use that. Even if you don't have that, what you can do is you can make a tapping on your present main line and before the valve, before the master valve, and make sure that you drain it out from there when you clean the tank.
Yeah, got your point, Avinash. I think that's a very valuable point.
One
But
final
it's
question
hard
in
because,
the interest of time.
it,
One final question in the interest of time. Mr. Bhaskar Acharya is saying the apartment in Bangalore, though connected with Kaveri, received close to no water at all with a pipe equivalent to individual houses, but had to pay close to 40-50,000 rupees per connection, and are charged ad hoc maintenance charges of rupees 200 per month per flat for sewage, per floor, borewell. Hence, apartments are still very much dependent on water tankers because of inefficient BWSSB. Now they have come up with rule about STP mandatory huge maintenance. How do you deal with this situation? Let me take this because it's a slightly systemic issue. I mean, it's I think we are doing a bunch of things to influence ecosystems like BWSSB. It's not a very simple answer to this question, sir. I think the amount of supply is disproportionate across different parts of the city. I think today, distinctly, if you look at it, both the outskirt areas of in the borders of Bangalore, both from an infrastructure point of view as well as supply point of view, are at a disadvantage, and having to depend a lot on private supply chain like tankers, etc. In fact, last week we had a huge issue with the tanker owner strike and stuff like that. It's not a simple answer, but I think what is beginning to happen is that there is pressure coming in on the authorities on system to be able to address this objectively, right? They can't no longer say that hide under the blanket. At least from our point, from the federation points, we are trying to put up a strong pressure on agencies like BWSSP to one, bring certain degree of guarantees and objectivity as far as supply infrastructure is concerned, and two, there being a certain rationality to the way the pricing is determined as well. This is not an easy answer. It will require a lot of us to also add strength to this effort. It will take some time, but yes, I think the pressure is on.
Thanks, Vikram. Thank you.
And on that, I think we are at 1:15. I think it will be good to Ajay. Prasanna, any closing thoughts, notes, and I'll leave it to Ajay to.
Basically, closing sentences are: if anybody wants to know more about rainwater harvesting, water meter, and aerators, please get in touch with me, and I will share the number of Mr. Avinash and Kuntal and Luke and our Upendra Singh and Mr. Jambunathan, and we can address this. And we also slowly building up a number of people who have the expertise in RWH in terms of implementation, plumbing engineers, and few others. So that's on. Those efforts are on to identify and know that those are the people who we can depend on. That's on. And we are also looking at water meters and aerators, talking to the vendors, and that will be all on our website very soon.
Thank you all.
Nice hearing, sir, on the World Water Day. Thank you.
Thank you.
One quick request. If Avinash is still around.
Yeah, I'm there.
Avinash, since I've caught you over here, we need some representation and leadership for the BAF central group. So please, I will speak to you offline. We're desperately seeking for people like you to be representatives over there.
Okay. I'll put in as much time as I can, because as it is, I'm very, very busy with this Alsur Lake thing. We're trying to
stretch to a lot of things, but I think I'll demand a little bit of stretch from you.
Okay, no problem, Vikram.
Yeah.
Thank you all, sir, on the World Water Day. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Nagraj, sir. Thanks very much. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Vikram. Excellent.
Housekeeping